Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the Players Experience podcast. On this week's episode, we chat with two-time Canadian Olympic gold medalist in rowing, Marnie McBean. We talked with Marnie about her journey to the Olympics, what it was like to win a couple gold medals, as well as her relationship with her rowing partner, Kathleen Heddle. We also chat about the struggle and the challenges around the 2000 Sydney Olympics and the decision to pull out from those Olympics. And outside of rowing, we also talk about her accolades and accomplishments that she's received throughout the years, including being a movement maker and sitting on the Special Olympics Canada Champions Network. Before we bring Marnie onto the show, we would of course like to give a shout out to our production team, Jay Solte Photography and Bicmar Productions, for their work on the intro, the video production, and the photos that you see each and every week. So make sure to go give them a follow on Instagram. As well, guys, we now have merch available for sale, so make sure to hit me up if you are interested in getting some of that. You can check it out on our Instagram, and thank you to 19 Marketing for that production. So if you need anything marketing related, hit up 19 Marketing for that. Also too, guys, remember that we have a discount with Hush Blankets, the Jaywalk, and Great North Apparel. So use the Players Experience code when you're checking out to get some discounts on some of those great merchandise items as well. And guys, if you haven't already, what are you really waiting for? Honestly, it's great content that you're missing out. So hit the subscribe button. Make sure you're following us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts so that you don't miss any episodes and you don't miss the great content that is produced each and every week with some exciting new guests every week from sport reporters, pro athletes, and individuals in sport. Because guys, it's stuff that you want to hear and it's stuff that you don't want to miss out on. So make sure to hit that subscribe button and give us a follow. Now, without further ado, let's bring Marnie onto the show and talk about her rowing career and what it was like to head to the Olympics. Marnie McBean, how are you?
I'm doing great, Ryan. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking time. How have things been during this whole pandemic for you?
You know, staying in the same walls, talking to the same people, you know, which is the light side of it. You know, it's certainly been a challenge for everyone to figure out how to reorganize and get things done. But yeah, no, we're making the most of it.
That's good. That's good. Well, yeah, let's start off. I like to start off every interview or chat that I do with a rapid fire section. So I'm going to ask you 4 questions. Just first thing that comes to mind, just spit them out. So what is your favorite time of day?
Sometimes morning when I'm rowing and I've got a good purpose, I'll get out in the morning before everyone's out. So I'll go with the morning. I don't always take advantage of it, but morning.
I mean, hey, let's be honest. When it's like Saturday morning and you've had a busy week, the last thing you want to do is wake up early as well. You just want to kind of...
Oh, unless you're going rowing, because that's when the best water is. When you actually get out and get going, the morning it's pretty special. And it's the most beautiful time. And I mean early morning. Like
5 a.m., 6 a.m.?
Yeah, let's go 6. Yeah.
Strangest thing that you would find in your fridge right now?
I have a really large jar of bacon grease. Maybe that's not strange. Maybe it's like, oh, everybody's got that can, but I use it. Like I'll make popcorn in bacon fat instead of, everyone else uses like Mazola or whatever. I'll use a little bit of bacon grease in there. So I'll use bacon grease for a lot of things. I fry toast in it sometimes. Okay. But yeah, I love my little jar of bacon fat.
Now, what's a TV show you're currently watching?
I suppose I just watched One Mississippi with Tig Navarro. It's on Prime, but it's a comedian, and she's just pretty hilarious. And she actually does a radio show just talks about what's going on, and that always leads into music. But it like most shows, it started off slow. I feel with every show you have to give it 3 episodes. I was that way with Schitt's Creek. I didn't like Schitt's Creek at the beginning, but after 3 episodes, we loved it.
Yeah.
And it was the same with One Mississippi.
That's awesome. Okay. And another sport you'd want to compete in?
I think I like the suffer sports. So it's going to be cycling, long track speed skating, probably those 2, cycling or long track speed skating.
Okay, cool. So
not sprint cycling. Sprint cycling. I have no sprinting ability, so distance.
Okay, so leading into that, where did the passion for rowing come from for you?
Oof. I think it was, Ryan, I think everyone's lucky. I think everyone's excellent at something, right? I think everyone's got a sport in them or a passion in them, whether it's going to be like, honestly, music or drama or sport. And you're just really lucky if you find it. And I remember when I was like in my teens, like I didn't find rowing until I was like 16, 17. But I was sort of been brought up to try new things. And I tried it. I loved it right away. And I loved for me, it sort of speaks to that answer I just gave. It's a bit of a suffer sport. So it's not too quick because I'm actually, my hand-eye coordination and my agility are a little on the low scale side for a high performance athlete. But I have the right mentality for focusing on, I guess, every stroke's a little bit different, but a repetitive task that just requires grind. And there is a lot more to it, a lot of strategy and a lot of thinking to it. So I just loved it right away. I loved the complexity of it. Like it's all subtle complexity. Like rowing's not just applying your body back and forth to try to push the water away. It's also balancing the boat. It's timing of the blades coming in, and then it's an individual task, but you have to do it. Almost unless you're in the single, it's an individual task that you have to do in concert with everyone else. So it is a team sport. But you're doing your own thing. So there's so many things in it that just really speak to my personality. And I feel really lucky the day that I tried it. And that some coaches gave me some time and polished me up a little bit.
So yeah, that's awesome because your passion for rowing definitely was a success for you. You got to compete in your first Olympic Games in 1992 in Barcelona, where you and your rowing partner, Kathleen Heddle, were both gold medalists in both the coxswain pair and the 8. What was the feeling like for you to win 2 gold medals at your first Olympic appearance on the biggest sports stage in the world?
Oh, well, it was, it was kind of that thing where I just sort of naively did it. We just sort of naively did it at the time. We showed up at our first Olympics, we raced our races, we won our races. And it wasn't until it was all over that we're having that like, oh my God, we just won at the Olympics. Like, who does this? And not only did we do it once, but we did it twice. And actually the group I was with, not only did we win in the pair and the 8, but our teammates also won in the 4, the men's 8 won, Silken got a bronze medal. It was like, I was surrounded by, I had 18 friends won a gold medal and 19 of my friends won an Olympic medal in 2 days, and 6 of us won 2. And we're like, oh, that's, pretty cool. It was a pretty great team to be part of. And it wasn't until we sort of kind of moved away from that and got out of our bubble of our team that we realized that what we had done had been a really big deal. And we kind of knew it, but when you're doing it, there's you somehow, and it was, everything was sort of quieter and simpler. Like this is way back in the 90s, right? There's no 24-hour news cycle. Like the coverage of the games was, it was professional and it was really well done, but it was a bit lame. Like if I go to watch video of those races, like it's not well filmed or anything. Like now they have drones everywhere following the rowing race. But how we felt about it was there was an element of somehow we did the right thing. And by the right thing, somehow we just focused on rowing. We didn't focus much on it being the Olympics. We're just like, it's the next competition that we're going to do. And, now I do a lot of mentoring and I work with a lot of athletes, Special Olympic athletes. I've been the mentor. And I had the title, I was a specialist in Olympic athlete preparation and mentoring from 2006 to 2014 with the Canadian Olympic team. And I tell you, one of the biggest things that I say to everyone is that normal people can do special things, because I feel like, I'm just kind of the kid next door. And I grew up, like I was saying, I didn't even find rowing till I was 16 or 17. And oh my God, my nutrition. I told you I have a jar of bacon fat in my fridge, right? My nutrition certainly isn't what you think of like a stereotypical like Olympic champion or even Olympic, I hate to use the word, I was going to say hero, but I'll go with like an icon. Sounds funny because I'm using it to describe myself. Like, how is that possible? I'm just me. But that's the thing I started learning is like, focus on the sport, focus on the thing that you love to do. And then the ceremony around you and everything, the big thing kind of takes care of itself. And right now I'm the chef de mission for Team Canada going to Tokyo 2020 +1. But it's that same thing. It's like the fear and doubt are part of the path, and normal people do extraordinary things. So we are going to be the normal people who are going to go and do this. Like, these are my messaging all the time to athletes. And I kind of, so when we won in 92, when Kathleen and I won, like not just one, but 2 gold medals, it was like, how the heck did we do that? And I remember, I'm going to go on with a long answer just for a second, because now it's just sort of flipped into my brain.
Oh, this is what the show's all about. It's about your experiences. So please continue.
Yeah. So, when did it kind of hit me? I remember a couple days after we won, and we've done all the media and we've talked, and I remember walking around the Olympic Village. And an Olympic Village is a pretty extraordinary place. Like, you walk around and you're looking at all the different athletes from around the world, right? Every nation, every culture is in there. And every athlete you've ever heard of in your life is in there, right? Like, so in 92, we also had the American basketball dream team. Literally every athlete you heard of was in this village. We had professional tennis players. We had professional basketball players. We didn't have the golfers yet, but everybody was there, and the bodies walking around are like machines. Like, some of them are, you're just like, oh my gosh, these people are like, that's a Terminator over there. Like just their body is like perfect. And I'm walking around, just being me, and I don't have that Terminator body. And I'm just kind of this normal kid from Etobicoke, just outside of Toronto. But I realized that in my room in the Olympic Village, where I'm a resident of this town of 10,000 people. And the 10,000 people are the best in the world. Everybody who lives in this town of 10,000 people is the best in their country at what they do, right? And they believe in perfection. And here I am, like, I'm a legit resident of this town. And in my sock drawer back in my room, because my medals were already in my sock drawer, back in my room, I have 2 gold medals. And that is what everybody in this town wants. And I think I just kind of froze. I was walking around and I just froze. And I was like, wow, like, I actually belong here, right? Like, I'm not just some sort of interloper in an Olympic Village. I snagged the golden ring. I've got it. And it was just, that was always, it's always, I find that the quiet moments where you get to reflect that are way more powerful than the big, like, medal around your neck moment. Cause there's just too much going on then to really reflect on how big that moment was.
And honestly, it's funny that you mentioned that your medals are in the sock drawer, because I was going to say every Canadian Olympian or just Olympian in general I've been able to have on the show. So whether it's been Mark Tewksbury, Patrick Chan, yourself, I always ask the question, where do you keep your gold medals? Because it's always interesting to hear where they keep them. Because like
Yep.
Patrick Chan said, he put something in a Lululemon bag beside his dog toys, and I have like Diana Matheson actually have it like right behind her in like a little case, right? And it's always
Yeah.
interesting to see where the Olympians put their medals.
Yeah. So mine have migrated over the years. They are in, in your kitchen, there's that stuff drawer.
Yeah.
And there's stuff in it, like whether it's Scotch tape and a screwdriver and some batteries and uh, warranties and menus and stuff like that. My medals are in the stuff drawer now. So
Hey, I need you to go get those batteries. Don't mind the medals, just the batteries.
yeah, totally. And sometimes somebody will come over and they'll like, if you know, back in the day when you could have guests in your house, if we were having like a dinner party or something like that, and someone would finally get up the nerve to go like, where are they? And I'm like, oh, they're just over there. And they're just, it is, you got to dig past the old shoelaces or whatever, the skate laces to dig them out.
No, that's awesome. Now, talking about those gold medals and some additional medals, 4 years later, the two of you got to compete in Atlanta, where you won a gold in the double sculls and a bronze in the quadruple sculls. What was the work and dedication like for the both of you from 92 in Barcelona to perform again in 96 and finish again on the podium?
Oh boy, Ryan, that's like a whole hour right there.
Well, hey,
So
talking about like your nutrition and your competition skills and main things like that.
yeah, well, it was also life. So Kathleen kind of retired. Kathleen retired after 92. And I was left alone, most of my teammates. So, I said 19 of my friends won an Olympic medal. I would say of the 9 women, actually 10 women if I count Silken, of the 10 women, 3 of us continued on. And I was the only sort of starboard rower who continued. And I was just like, you know what? I don't want like Kathleen Heddle was an extraordinary partner, and I was like, I don't know how to replace that. So I went into the single. So, in that period of time between 92 and 96, like I switched events. So you said, you told the audience that I got the medals in 92 in the coxless pair and the 8. And I also heard how you said it, that you, like everybody, you had no idea what you were talking about, right? It's a coxless pair. What does that mean? Now, the coxie is the person in a rowing boat. They're usually quite small, like a jockey in horseback riding or something like that.
Okay.
But they are so essential. So the coxswain, it's the full name is the coxswain, but we call them the coxie. The coxie is strategy and motivator and coach, and they do so many things in the boat to make sure that in the bigger boat that everybody's coordinated. And that's Leslie Thompson Willie, and she's God, but because she's just so good at what she does. But so you have one of those in an 8, and as the boat gets smaller, you don't want to carry around an extra 100 pounds because it'll slow you down. So in a coxless pair, there's no coxie. So there's the coxed 8 and the coxless pair. And in rowing, when they say pair 4 8, everybody has one oar. And so you have both hands on one big oar. But when you say single, double, quadruple, when it sounds like multiplication, it's sculling. And so you have 2 oars. And so what I did when Kathleen retired, I went into sculling. So now I was the only person in a boat, and I went from holding on 1 oar to holding on 2 oars, which internationally doesn't get done. The Europeans don't tend to sweep row, and the North Americans don't tend to scull, but I switched over. So I had a big learning curve, and Kathleen was going, and she was finishing some education and some courses. But I kept calling her up, like every month I would call her up. I'm like, do you want to come back? Do you want to come back? Do you want to come back? And she would take the call. And then when I was getting close to big competitions, like World Cup competitions or World Championships, she's like, no, you should go and focus on your rowing now. And I'm like, okay. And then that season would end. But so I switched to sculling. Kathleen took a year and a half off, and eventually in the 94 season, I convinced her to come back. That's a long story too, but so we only had 7 weeks to the World Championships, and in 94, we kind of threw it together. So in 94, we raced a double, which is different from the pair. So the pair, we both had one oar, so we're like one oar each. And in 94, now we had 2 oars. So we didn't have to compare to like the Olympic champion selves. We're like, man, let's see how we do in the double. And we actually were just behind New Zealand for the silver medal at the World Championships, which was awesome because we'd only had 7 weeks to train. But Kathleen still wasn't convinced that she wanted to come back. But early in the 95 season, she did. So now we start getting into complicated. How did our training go? So our training was always going up. So the training to get to 2 gold medals was a lot. The training, and you don't just repeat that, right? Like that was top of the food chain. We won 2 gold medals. You don't just get to do that again, because if we showed up to the 96 Olympics in the same shape that we'd showed up to the 92 Olympics, we're not going to win. We might make the finals, but we have to be better. So our training, we had to do more training. We had to try and be faster. We had to try and be more efficient. But Kathleen did come back in the 95 season. We also have to work on our personal relationship and how we're communicating. That's, you're a team sport. That's not easy. It's like any relationship. Sometimes with 2 people in the boat, Kathleen and I often refer to it. It was like an arranged marriage, because we were originally put together. She's a quiet person. She was a quiet person. She passed away this year, which still breaks my heart. But Kathleen was an introvert and kept her aggression and how she was competitive just quiet and it was all there. And I was like, let's go. So we had to figure out how to blend these things. And then finally, on top of all this, trying to do more with our strength, trying to do more with our technique, trying to do more with our relationship, we also are having layered onto all of this the expectation. And this is what was really different about 96 was, how did we do in 92? And I was like, oh, it was kind of quiet. We went in and did our job, and it was like sweet and naive. But now everyone, Kathleen Heddle and Marnie McBean are paired up again and going into their Olympics. So we're world and Olympic champions, and we won the World Championships again in 95. So now going into the Atlanta Olympics, we are the reigning Olympic champions. We are reigning world champions in the event we're going into. Atlanta was a very, because Atlanta is very close, the States are our neighbor, and Atlanta is like a close flight from Toronto. It was very much treated a bit like a home games and a sponsorship side. So there was a huge amount of sponsorship going into it. So I had 12 national sponsors. I was in the paper a lot, and the expectation on us was really, really high. And I sometimes think that expectation can be the enemy of joy, right? And fun. And fun and joy are sometimes the ticket to winning, right? If you're having fun, and even when it's really, really hard and really stressful, if there's like this thread of fun through it, and you just like, this is awesome. We definitely had that going into our first Olympics, and it was pretty tenuous how we were able to hold on to that. So that was the big difference going into 96, is that we had, it was at times suffocating, trying to manage all of this. And because of Kathleen's sort of more introverted nature, she was very uncomfortable with it. So we had to work hard. I'm proud at how I figured it out. I figured it out with enough time that I built fences around that for us, even though there's tons of things I would have said yes to. We said no to the cover to a national magazine. We said no to a cereal box. We said no to a lot of things that I would have thought were super cool. But Kathleen was smarter than that. And she knew to remember what was important. And that was our rowing and focusing on, a big part of rowing is the calmness that goes with it. And she kept us connected to that.
Now, I want to chat a little bit more about Kathleen. As you mentioned, she just passed away a couple of months ago, and my condolences to you as well, like as her family. And you were so obviously close knit with her competing at the Olympics, and just having that, maintain that friendship post career and post Olympics, right? And I want to find out from you, what was one favorite memory that you have between the two of you that, like, I wanted to give you the opportunity to share on the show, and so that people got an idea of who Kathleen was, but also just to kind of honor her memory a little bit. And
oh my gosh,
yeah, I know it's 10:30.
Tearing up. Thanks, Brian.
I don't mean to make you tear up, but like, you guys are close, and yeah, I just wanted to.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Like, I have, this flood of memories. Kathleen, she was one of those people who, she's like the funniest person, but you've got to be smart enough to listen, kind of thing. Like, if you're listening for the big joke, or like a loud, boisterous, something demonstratively funny, you're not going to get it. But if you listen to the quiet, and she was never mean, right? She was never catty, but there'd be these just comments and stuff like that were like super funny and would just sort of end up making you giggle. But the things that always strike me with Kathleen is just how we got through the work, right? Like, how she stood up for herself at times. That you think it was easy to think that, and people made the mistake that as a loud and maybe I'll use the word that Kathleen might have used sometimes, loud and more obnoxious person, that I would steamroll the relationship all the time, steamroll a situation all the time. But the truth is, I only got away with what Kathleen let me get away with. Because if there's ever something that she totally disagreed with, like if she didn't care about something, she'd let me like just go off. But if she cared about something, she would like always like just put her foot down and go, I don't agree with that, or you're wrong. And I remember once realizing, if I could come back as anything, maybe I would come back as a quiet person, because when they actually speak up, they've got such power, for like, that's certainly one of the things that I realized. But I guess one of my favorite memories when I think about Kathleen, it was always, she taught me to recognize the power of quiet, if not silent, communication. And, certainly in rowing, like I have a speaking role, and we spend enough time training with each other that in a race, I have to do some talking, but my heart rate's at 204 beats per minute. And I'm like, so it's not like I'm going to get super chatty. So we get to this sense where like a word or two will mean a paragraph, or even weeks of training. So there's an element that we had all these little things that meant so much. And somehow one day we were talking about a really old cartoon, and it's in the realm of like Bugs Bunny kind of thing, like original Bugs Bunny. And it's these two sheepdogs, and they work in a factory, and one does the night shift and one does the day shift. And as one is arriving, it kind of like, they had to use these punch cards, right? So I'm like, the number of things I have to describe because they're so old, but it was like a piece of paper, and you put it into the thing, and it would punch the time that you started work, and it would be the same time the other sheepdog would punch it, and it would be the time that it stopped work. And so you punched in to like start the clock, and you punched in to stop the clock. And we would finish really hard workouts and we would look at each other and we'd just be like, and we'd walk off. And that was just like the value of that row was so high because we wanted to make sure we punched the clock with it. And there's no words to it, right? And it's just a look and it's a smile and it's an understanding and it's a respect for the value of work that we had just done. Another time, and it was always the quality of the work that we did. We went out, I think it was I'm pretty sure 1991, we were at a training camp before the World Championships. And, people always ask a favorite moment in sport and they expect you to say like, oh, it was this race or it was that race where we won this or when we came from behind. Like I remember a lot of those races, but I think my favorite memory was this row that we had in this lake. It's in Switzerland. There's cows watching us. That's it. There's nobody around. And even then the cows are pretty far because we're in the middle of the lake and they're on the grass. And we went out and we were rowing, and rowing's a little bit, balance in rowing's a little bit like riding a bike. Like if you're going fast, it's really easy to balance, but the slower and slower you go, it's harder to balance. And then, this is when we were rowing in a pair. So Kathleen would have an oar going out one side and I had an oar going out the other side. And when you're rowing, so your blades are in the water and then they come out. And when your blades are out of the water, the boat can be really tippy. And usually you see beginners, their blades are hitting the water on either side. And so what we did was we slowed the boat down as slow as we could. Like we were going so slow, the computer that tracks the number of strokes we take per minute turned off, right? It wasn't recognizing the fact that we were still rowing. And we rowed 2,000 meters as a race distance. We rowed 2,000 meters so slowly that our computer didn't know to turn on. And what we did, instead of bringing our blades out of the water and then making it easier by, this is called feathering them, like turning them flat, we kept them square. So it was low rate rowing, square blade, like as slow as you can go kind of thing. And the goal was not ticking the water. So keeping the balance perfect and doing this together. So you have to go in together and out together. And we went for about 2,000 meters, which going this slow probably took us 12 minutes to like 15 minutes. Like, I don't know because the computer wouldn't turn on. But we did it. We went 2,000 meters. We didn't tick the water. And we got to the end of that. And that's a very technical rowing story, but it's it's one of my proudest rows because we got to the end of that and we were like, wow, we did it. Like that was amazing. Like that was totally amazing. And it's funny because for such a slow row, I think that was the workout where I knew we could win the World Championships that year. And we did. We went from like that kind of precision on a slow race to that year at the World Championships, we set the world's best time, like significantly. I think we dropped the world's best time by like 5 seconds or something like that. But it was that kind of row. And I remember saying to Kathleen, I said, oh, you know what? That was amazing. Like, but I'm like, my brain is fried. Like we had to think so much and our body was like on fire so much to get that done. And I remember like rowing in and our coach came over and when he saw us, we looked like crap because we were like, oh, it's just like we had nothing left. We're like just dragging ourselves over the dock. And he actually came over and yelled at us. And he was like, why do you guys, you look so, he didn't say this, but he's like, you look so crappy and what's going on? And, I leave you for 2 seconds and this is what's going on. And I'm the one who always like talks back and I'm about to like talk back. And Kathleen just looks over at Al and kind of quietly says, Al, I think you're wrong. And he didn't know what to say, right? Because Kathleen never speaks up. And he took off. He like started his boat and he took off. And then we're still like rowing back to the dock. And before we got back to the dock, he came over and he apologized. And I thought, oh my God, for all the times I've talked back, he has never apologized to me. I'm like, I want to be Kathleen. That was awesome. Anyways, so that's sort of one of my, she just had so much power and she was so kind and so talented. And yeah, I don't want to cry again. So I'll stop there, but I already am. I'm like, oh.
No, but that's awesome. It's great, like when you try and get a partner when it comes to any sport, whether it's rowing, whether you're playing tennis or whatever it is, whatever partnership and friendship that you really develop, it's a lifelong relationship, right? And as you know, I'm an athlete with Special Olympics, and the guys that are on my softball team, they're gonna be family with me for the next 15, 20, 30, 40 years, whatever it may be, because we were able to spend two national, I don't want to say championships because we only won one of them. We won bronze at the other. But
Yep.
making that trip out to nationals, we spent that time together and spent the time in our like version of the Olympic Village and things like that. So it's really, it really gets motivational, especially when you have that friendship and you look back at the memories that you guys had, right? So
Yep.
no, that's awesome. I'm glad that you were able to have that friendship and still be able to talk about Kathleen and share her memories so that
Yeah.
others can get to know how great of an individual she was.
Yeah. Ryan, like you talk about sort of that sort of brothership you have with your teammates, and it's not like, once we retired that Kathleen and I were hanging out all the time, because that's not like, that wouldn't be accurate. Like we would maybe connect a couple times a year. But the thing that always existed, even 20 years after we had raced together, was like the trust, and we could connect and we could kind of dive right into things. And I think that was what's always special is, the bond you have with your teammates. It is always needs to be respected, but it doesn't need to be coddled or babied. It's kind of always there, and you can reach out.
No, for sure. And that's a great way to put it. Now, I want to chat with you about what would have been your third Olympic appearance in 2000 in Sydney. Unfortunately, you had to pull out and withdraw from that Olympic Games due to a back injury. And shortly after that back injury and deciding to pull out, you ended up also deciding to retire from international competition. What was the feeling like for you to not only be able to not make another appearance at the Olympics, but like just the mindset around retiring from the sport?
It's funny. I went into the Sydney Olympics kind of thinking it was going to be my last Olympics. Like, I was trying to figure out how hungry I was still for it. Like, I think just because you can do something at that level doesn't mean you should. You have to be hungry for it, because it's just so hard, and it's really your whole life. And increasingly I was starting to, like, as an athlete, I always had blinders on. Like I was very laser focused on sport, and increasingly, I was getting older and doing more things, and it was harder for me to keep those blinders on. And once you realize there's like a big, interesting world out there with lots of things to do, it was getting harder and harder for me to focus on them. So that was coming up. And then through the 99 and the 2000 season, I was just going slower and slower, and we couldn't figure out why. Like it wasn't until the very last minute that we understood that it had been a back issue. I thought I had a hamstring problem, and I couldn't figure out why I was going slower. But, it turned out that the back issue was affecting my whole drivetrain. But there's this element of when I had to withdraw, like I was in Australia. I did everything I could. And at the moment I had to withdraw, I couldn't sit down without excruciating pain, right? Like actually for a while I couldn't even stand up. But as a rower, you need to be able to sit down. And so it was kind of easy to withdraw because I couldn't sit. It's like, if I can't sit, I can't row. So that's done. And I also had seen other athletes try and go through extraordinary measures like cortisone shots and row through the pain. And it really affected their mobility for like decades later. And I was still young, and I thought, one day I would like to have, I hope to have kids and physically play with kids. And I do now have a 5-year-old, and I do physically play with her. But I also knew what luxury I had to make a sane decision, because I had, back in my sock drawer, this big pile of medals. It wasn't like I was trying to win my first Olympic medal. I knew I'd been really fast, but it was time. So I withdrew from those Olympics, and I didn't want that to be my obit kind of thing. So, because I remember lots of journalists wrote that, I wasn't going to be competing, very much like it was an obituary. And so I remember coming home, having back surgery, and getting myself strong, getting onto a rowing machine. And once I could row, once I could pull a test that would have been a reasonable test, even without the back injury, so like a recovery, I just made a decision that I just wasn't hungry enough for it anymore. There wasn't the spark for me. Like I had worked with the same coach. There wasn't a different coach for me to work with. There weren't at that time, there weren't athletes that were, I felt inspired to join. Like there's just no place for me. And so I said, it was time to move on. I think, time would pass and different coaches would come and different athletes would come. And I'm like, oh, that'd be a fun team to be on. And sometimes I think that's partly just the lifestyle. Like it's hard not to miss the lifestyle when you retire. Like I would say easily for 10 years, I was kind of, if I wanted to, I could get back on this team. And now I'm like, not a chance, because it's just way too hard, but I miss it. And it was certainly a challenge to end my Olympic career with a withdrawal. But like every Olympics, I learned a big lesson from that. Like I had always been outrageously independent and took care of myself. And when my back blew, like I had 2 discs ruptured in my lower back, when that happened, I needed to accept help when friends and teammates and strangers offered help. I just said yes, because I needed it. And I suppose it's one of the big life lessons I learned, was how kind people can be if you let them, right? So I know I love to offer to help people, and I mean it. But for the longest time, I was not very good at letting other people do that for me. And then probably I'm still not as great as it, because I'm back to being independent and strong. But the one thing I know is people are so kind, and people are so generous, but you have to let them be that. And that was the lesson I learned that year.
Well, hey, if you ever want to have that competitive itch scratched in the future, when COVID ends and when we can get back to something like the new normal, I know a team at Special Olympics for staff we put in a dragon boat racing team in the past. So we could always probably get you in there as a friend and family aspect.
And careful inviting me to water sports like that, because I get pretty intense, and I might not be very nice. Like, especially with paddling sports, I'm like, come on.
Oh, man. I just have a couple more questions for you. This one I have to read right off the screen because there's so many accolades, and I want to congratulate you multiple times for these. But in 1997, you were inducted into the Canadian Sports Hall of Fame and awarded the Meritorious.
That's a tough one. Meritorious.
There you go. I knew I was going to screw it up. I always do.
Everybody does. Honestly, I put it in there as a tongue twister. It's so funny.
Okay, perfect. So it's not just me. Good. And then in 2002, you were awarded the Thomas Keller Medal by the FISA. As well, in 2013, you were made an Officer of the Order of Canada. And to top things off, as you mentioned earlier, you were just appointed Chef de Mission of the Team Canada team for the Tokyo Olympics. That's definitely quite a list of honorable inductions and titles and awards. What does it all mean for you to be recognized as such a great Canadian rower and the athlete that you are?
It's kind of weird, because you sort of think, how is that me kind of thing? But, and it's almost weird the further I get away from rowing, because if I watch a video of me rowing, like just the other day, that the Canadian Olympic team sent me a clip from the 96 Olympics, and they said, oh, would you do this voiceover and tell me about your experience there? And there's this part, as I'm supposed to be talking about it, where I'm just like, staring at the screen going, I can't believe I was that good. Like, look at that. Like, we were so good. And, to get these awards and put me sort of on a list and in a room and in a hall with other Canadians and other athletes who have done extraordinary things, whether it's in sport or, philanthropy, how they give back to their community. It's pretty amazing. But I think sometimes the thing I'm most proud of is a lot of them recognize a more holistic athlete, right? So it's a lot of them aren't given out just for being an athlete, but you have to have some community involvement as well, and give back. And I have always felt that I've been so blessed to, like I said, I was lucky to find rowing, and it fit perfectly for me, and everything went well, and the doors and the bridges and the opportunities all presented themselves for me. So I got to live this extraordinary lifestyle. And then I'm quite proud of the fact that I have always worked to reach out and bring others with me, to support others on their journey to, support, encourage health and fitness of Canadian youth and youth around the world, and activity, because of all the different things it brings. And I think that's the part, like, that community, that I get recognized as being part of that community, makes me pretty proud. And it also encourages me to keep doing stuff, right? Because there is that thing that sometimes, where does motivation come from? It comes from everywhere. And sometimes it's like, well, I'm on this list. I have that award. I am an officer of the Order of Canada, or well, then I should step up, right? So sometimes it's that motivator that's like, well, you got to go and figure out how to help, and to be a voice, and to be an advocate. And I'm part of the LGBT community, so I need to be a voice and an advocate for my community, and for people who don't have the strength and the privilege to do it. So I'm the one who has to be starting the hard conversations, and pointing out things that sometimes are uncomfortable and need to be changed. So that list of honors is a gift, but it's also a reminder of the obligation of giving back.
Now, talking about giving back, we mentioned it earlier about the Special Olympics movement and the message of inclusion. Outside of the sport, you all are a member of the Special Olympics Canada Champions Network. What's it like to be a member of that network, and be that voice and advocate for Special Olympic athletes as well? And what's been one of your favorite events that you've been able to attend through that movement?
Oh my goodness. It's funny. I was going to say one of the favorite events I went to was the World Games in Abu Dhabi, and for sure that was amazing. I got to go and watch so many of the sports. Right, I watched the soccer and the bocce and the weightlifting and golf, and like it was so amazing to be immersed in that sort of high performance environment. But then I remember I used to go, in December, there's the Sports Celebrity Festival and the awards, the award show. I've been going to that since like 91, right? For a really long time. And we used to do floor hockey. And I don't know if you were there, but a long time ago, but the floor hockey would get so competitive, and there'd be, sometimes some of the Leafs around, and some of the Special Olympic athletes, and some Olympic athletes, and like some Blue Jays and whatever, and we would be full on contact, like for ringette kind of thing, going at each other, and it was so it was such a family, right? And then we would have the breakfast the next day, and every year we'd come together. And it was like seeing family. So in this, you're talking about all the awards, when I'm going to the Canada Sport Hall of Fame, I get together with that family. But when I get to the Special Olympic, it was the Sports Celebrity Festival. There was, there would be the breakfast, and then during the day there would be it was either skating or ringette, floor hockey. And then there'd be the dinner. Oh, and there was the awards show. I think it was the awards and the ring out when I actually got to, too many events I go to and I don't get to hang out with the people that we're celebrating. And so I think it was like, it's definitely the floor hockey. And I think John Tavares was playing once and he was still so young. And I remember giving him a pretty solid, body check going for he had figured out how to like pull his teeth out, right? A little bit. And I mean that he was still being like sweet and nice. And everyone else I knew was going to be super competitive. So he came out kind of a little bit patronizing for the room. Like, he didn't really understand how competitive Special Olympic athletes were like in the first moment, but within 10 minutes when he'd kind of been slammed around quite a bit, that was good. Like,
he's like, oh, awesome. I'm gonna pick up the pace.
Totally. Yeah, it was great.
That's awesome. Special Olympic events are so much fun, and like I got involved around the same age as you got involved with rowing. I was 16. I was in high school, and that's when I got involved. And here we are, 15 years later, and it's crazy to think how, like, where Special Olympics has come as an organization, where the movement has gone, how many athletes are involved, and so much more. So it's really cool.
Like, and sadly another athlete that passed, I can't remember Arthur's last name right now, but Arthur had been going to the Special Olympic events. We had been attending them. Like he was a Special Olympian and he had been going since I had been going. And I remember just a couple of years ago running into him and we were talking and he was telling me, I'm like, how are you doing? And, he went on and he told me he was doing great, but he told me, about his family and there'd been some trials that like some challenges and his, I believe his father had passed away and his mother was doing her best and his like sisters and his siblings were kind of like stepping up and they had their own challenges. And, I have to say, Ryan, it was one of those things where I saw Arthur right then as he was having the same grown-up adult issues that I was having. We had been going to these events for 30 years together. And it was a really, I'm really glad I had that conversation with Arthur and it was a good reminder that, the Special Olympic athletes like yourself, you're growing up and becoming adults and having all the same, life progressions, the good, the bad, the family politics and the family struggles. And it was really neat.
No, for sure. And that's awesome. And on behalf of all my fellow athletes, I just want to say thank you to you for being a member of that Champions Network, because it may be something, very minor for you and just and something that you have fun doing. But for us, it's really cool to have you as part of the Champions Network and being able to share our stories with you. And that's how our friendship has kind of developed, is through these events as well. So thank you for being part of it.
No problem. I'm realizing I should have left a long time ago and gotten since you had me talking about Kathleen, I think my eyes have been crying the whole time. And then I was talking about Arthur and like, oh my goodness, you can title this the weepy interview.
No. It's never going to be titled that. Don't worry.
If you put a filter over, take out anyways.
Now, my last question for you is, you have so much experience with rowing and through the Olympics and teaching, like you said, and motivating the next generation of athlete. What would your advice be in a segment I like to end off every show with called Words of Wisdom? What would your words of wisdom or advice be for that next generation of athlete or that next rower that wants to reach the Olympics?
Well, I already slid in one nugget in our conversation. It's like the normal people can do incredible things. And I don't even know what normal is, but everybody can do incredible things. But I think most importantly, fear and doubt are part of a champion's path, right? So just because you sometimes have fear, or you may sometimes have fear, or you may sometimes have doubt. Don't worry about that. Don't think that you're not the right person or you're on the wrong path. I don't know a single champion in anything that didn't have fear and doubt. Sort of, sometimes it lingers and it lasts longer, and sometimes it goes through really quickly, but it always comes as part of the whole decision-making process. But, fear and doubt are always going to be there, and you don't have to make them go away. You just turn the volume down on that, right? Just turn the volume down on fear and doubt, and then focus on your technique, focus on your training, focus on the time that you've been in it, focus on why not, focus on that you like it, and use these things to all turn the volume up on the positive voice. So, and it's the same with stress. Stress is a good thing, right? It's sort of packaged with that fear and doubt, and you don't have to make it go away, right? You just work to turn the volume down on that, and turn the volume up on the positives and the why nots and the I'm ready and the I can do this, and I've got good teammates, and I can ask that question, right? Like sometimes that's fear. That's all packaged into asking a question, right? You've got fear and doubt about looking like you don't know the answer. That's okay. Just turn the volume down on that and go ask the question, right? Like, why not? Like asking the question is the first step to moving forward.
That's awesome. Well, Marnie, thank you so much for sharing your insight, your experiences, and your time with Kathleen, and sharing your advice for the next generation. Because once COVID ends and once we get to a new normal, there's definitely going to be a lot of hungry athletes out there that want to get back in competition and compete and get back to sports. So thank you for sharing your time, and we really appreciate it.
Oh, this has been great, Ryan. Thank you. And next time I'm going to keep a box of Kleenex closer.
Until then, take care, stay safe, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, bye.